and welcome to my bedroom. It is time to begin the room resurrection series for giving my bedroom a dark aesthetic, maybe a little fantasy, just a new vibe. It needs some life in here. This has long been, pretty much always been, a neglected space. It's always kind of been, well, I only sleep in here, so I'm going to put more focus on the other room in my house, the living room, the office, the kitchen. But I've come to the conclusion that I really want this space to feel good. I want it to bring me joy when I come in here. I want to spend more time in here, or at least I want to be here, even if I don't actually spend more time in here. And actually the thing that triggered that was after doing some of my thrift hauls and getting like some of the dark decor or the like spooky decor, I was like, okay, cool, I love this stuff, but now what am I gonna do with it? Let me show you the one part of my room that I really love, and that is actually going to be the inspiration pretty much for the rest of this series. So as you can see, I've taken stuff from my different hauls, my thrifting hauls, my Halloween haul, and I've made some really nice little vignette. I've just come to really love this space, and I want to love the rest of my bedroom like I love this space. So yeah, this has been the inspiration. Alright, so yeah, that is kind of the vibe that we're going for. A little feminine, a little spooky, dark, but yeah, I think that that's a really good jumping point. I'm not necessarily not going to pull off any of that stuff, but it may get reworked a little in the process, but I really want to focus on doing some of the big things first. For instance, I'm going to be painting my bookshelves, which is going to happen pretty much in this video. I have a dresser, that was pretty much my baby dresser, my childhood dresser, and that is going to get revamped. I have lamps that I'm going to recover. I have different things planned. But for this video, we're going to start with the foundation of moving things around, doing some painting. And then the fun part is going to be, we're going to set up our crown canopy above my bed once it's scooted over so I can figure out where it actually needs to hang. So since kind of the prep work took such a huge chunk of the video for the room resurrection of my living room space, I am mostly going to do that off camera so that we can just get like my books cleared off and the furniture moved around, and then jump into the more like fun part of this video. So I'm going to slap some dye in my hair and get to work on moving all of those books. We have painted bookshelves. I am so happy. They're so fresh looking. I love it. I am going to give them just a little bit longer to cure so that my books don't stick to anything. I just want to be extra sure about that. But those are ready to go, and it is time to move on to the actual project of the video, our canopy crown. So let's look at what we are working with for that. Alright, so we have our shelf that we thrifted, a double curtain rod, one of the sets of curtains that we're working with. We've got dye, we've got spray paint, and we've got some gold gilding wax. So I haven't decided what the second curtain is going to be, but I do know that this curtain is going to hopefully be dyed black. It is polyester, so we had to get the synthetic dye. This is just going to end up looking like a fresher, newer version of what it is essentially. I'm going to spray paint it black, make sure all these edges get covered, and then re-gild it with our gilding wax. So let's go ahead and get started on all this. so the shelf is going to sit and dry. I may actually leave it until tomorrow night, so we're going to be literally rubbing that gilding wax on it. But in the meantime, we are going to get our dye bath going. Now, it does have to be on the stove top as opposed to other things I dye, like my skirt, which had enough natural material in it to do it in the sink. This has to be maintained at a hotter temperature because polyester, I think, is essentially just like plastic when you get down to it. So stovetop it is, and unfortunately we're only going to be able to dye one curtain at a time, and barely that because this was the biggest, most reasonably priced pot that I could find. I think I only paid like $5 for it while I was thrifting. I'm not going to risk ruining my big stock pot because I do long-term cooking in it. Like, I make actual like bone broth, which is hours and hours. I don't want to risk dye particles leaching into that. So one curtain at a time. It just fits. It's probably still technically too small, but that's what we're working with. We're gonna make it work. I just will have to diligently stir to make sure that it's not touching the bottom and that it gets moved around enough in the water so that it does actually get every little bit exposed. So I'm going to get this boiling and bring you back once we're there because I think it's going to take a minute. Alright, we are just about 200 degrees, so we're going to go ahead and start adding what we need. I'm going to start with some dishwasher detergent, which I realized since my last dyeing video with my skirt that I did actually have under my sink. I'm not sure how much. We'll just add a fair amount because I don't feel like rereading that tiny print. All right, we got our detergent. Now I'm going to add the whole bottle of dye. Now it says graphite and not black, so hopefully this will be dark enough to suit my needs. If not, I guess we're just going to have to live with it. Alright, let me get my gloves on. I also realized that these curtains are machine washed cold and we're putting them into near boiling hot water. So we're just gonna wish it well and hope for the best. And this is just like a slotted spoon I have that I never use, so I don't really feel bad about putting it into a vat of dye. Probably should grab myself something to stick this on. I was using that for my shelf paint. Okay. That should be about good to go, and I'm gonna just turn it down a little. Fabric is already wet. Let's add it slowly and carefully. And I kind of filled up the pot while the fabric was in it, so hopefully it doesn't overflow. There we are. Alright, so we're gonna go 30 minutes, see what it's starting to look like, and then decide how much longer from there. And I want to make sure that I am precise with how long this is going so that I can do the other one for the same amount of time. Okay, so I ended up setting the timer for 40 minutes just to be safe. I think that it's looking pretty good. I just got dye everywhere, that's cool. It looks pretty good. I know it's going to obviously rinse and wash lighter, but I think we're in a pretty good position. And since I have to do this a whole second time, I'd rather not have to take an hour to do both, resulting in 2 hours of stirring if I don't have to. So I'm going to give this just a couple more minutes of stirring until the timer goes off. Rinse it and wash it in the sink, and then I will show it to you again once it's dry. Alright, so things have dried. First off, our curtains. Now they're definitely more gray than black, but I think that they're still gonna work. But more importantly, they are the same color. So I'm very relieved about that. Yeah, I think once it's all together, I think the fact that they're a little lighter than I was hoping for. It did say graphite, not black, but I think that they're still going to work just fine. So we've got those, and then I've also got, let me turn this camera on, got our shelf dry. So this has had a chance to cure, and I have my gilding wax, and I have a cloth. It did suggest applying this with like a sponge or with the cloth, but I don't know that I'm going to get enough control with the cloth, and I don't really have a small sponge. And because this is so detailed, I think I'm just going to use my fingies and see if I can just like just very lightly apply it and then buff it with the cloth. So I've never used this before. Let's give it a go. Hope it turns out well. All right, it's almost kind of fluffy looking. Let's see. There's a little on the top tab, so I'll just start.
Okay, yeah, it's a little firmer than it looks like it's gonna be.
Just want to get a little on my finger to start, and it says it dries fast, so I'm gonna try to work pretty quickly. Let's zoom in, and let's do this one right here. Okay, maybe just a little more. Okay, there. That may be actually a little too much. We'll see what happens once. Okay, so I think I can do a fairly good sized area, and there's definitely got to be a balance of how much is on your finger, because the second application was a little thick. Bad. Maybe not quite what I was hoping for, but I think it'll look just fine, especially since it's going to be hung up on a wall. All right, let's see. Pretty cool. I think it's just gonna be a matter of practice and getting a handle on the technique. So I'm gonna keep applying and we will see how this turns out. I don't think what we have is bad, but I think there is room for improvement. I kind of was getting an idea of the technique, but like I said, this is my first time. I kind of want it just on the raised parts as much as possible. So what I'm gonna try and do is tone down where it like spread over with antiquing medium. So that way I can rub it off of where the gold is, and then it'll be worked down into where I don't want the gold. So first we filled in the positive, now we're going to go back in and try and black out the negative space again around it. So this is a 1-to-1. I'm sure I'm going to need more than what I'm mixing, but let's just start with this. And if all else fails, I spray paint over it again and we just make a second attempt. Just kind of want to get all, let's just start with this side, where'd that rag go? All right. So this might be kind of a back and forth, touch up the gold after I touch up the black sort of situation. Getting somewhere. I think if I do the antiquing medium in a couple more layers to really get this like in between stuff darker, and then just lightly hit where I want the gold to pop some more, that we will have what we're looking for. So I'm gonna work on that, and then I will show you once we've finished this back and forth process of getting it where we want. So we have our finished shelf for the top of our crown molding, and I've been debating back and forth quite a bit if I should hang it like a shelf or flip it, because then the wide part will be more in line with the double valence that we're hanging underneath it. So I think I am going to hang it like this, and I have already attached hardware to the back so that we can hang it up. I am going to use, and I don't recommend this if you live in an apartment like I do, but I will figure out fixing it when we move out, whenever that is. I am using these nail screw things that expand in your drywall once you unscrew them after hammering them in. I want to make sure this does not come crashing down on my head overnight. So I'm making sure it is secure, even though it is going to put holes in my wall. Potentially permanent ones, because I don't think these really come back out afterwards. But that's what spackle's for, right? So I've already measured the width. It's like 31 1/10 to get right between the teeth. So I'm going to take a level and a yardstick and get these installed so that we can hang it up. It is installed. It looks slightly underwhelming right now, but I think once we get everything installed, it'll be a little bit more grand. So I'm going to repeat this process to install the curtain rods, and then we will join back up for like finalizing what we're doing. All right, you can see our little brackets are installed, and I did take the shelf down to put them up because it was kind of in the way of hammering. Plus, the way these curtain rods work, there's a little like hole and you have to like loop it down into place. So I figured that was just gonna be in the way. Anyways, let's get our curtains hung up. I think I want to do the lace ones as like the outer angled pieces. And for the background, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I threw together just some serged edges and a quick little loop at the top. I think it's just long enough. But this is some leftover silk Dupioni that I have, and it's got like this cool purpley blue shift to it. I want to add some pops of color in here, in blue and purple specifically. My favorite color is purple. Mr. Psychopomps is blue. So to break up the black and beige just a little bit, let's try this out. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's gonna give me the look I'm going for, but it doesn't hurt to try. I didn't do that much to alter the fabric, so it's still usable if I need to. Ooh, hopefully I made the loop big enough. I did my measurement off the inside rod, I just realized. So give me just a second to redo my loop since it's too small. Dang it! Alright, I fixed it. I just threw some little tab loops on there. So now let's get this up onto the wall. Alright, with some minor difficulty, the first curtain is up. Now let's get on the lace curtains and see how they look together. While I'm at it, I'm also going to pop up the shelf. And because I want you to watch me struggle bust, because they didn't make the right side small enough, or one side anyway small enough to accommodate the smaller insert. Yeah, well, it was like $3, so I guess I can't complain too much about it not being the best to be put together. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this and get the other piece on. Alright, are you ready? I'm so happy with this. Okay, so I did have to like take a moment and do some engineering because these lace curtains are heavy. So it was wanting to like pop and droop and not stay in place. So what I ended up doing was actually putting right in the middle like a little hook, and then I took just some like some ribbon and I tied it into the center so there was a center support. But you're not going to end up seeing that because the next step of this is to put like a valence piece, and that's going to bridge this little gap here at the top. What I've got I found this thrifting, of course, and it's just like a nice, I don't know, it's probably like a curtain, a tablecloth. Not really sure what this was. Anyways, big black piece of fabric, and I'm going to try to swag it from the top and see how I like that. That's what a lot of the crown canopies seem to do, is have like the curtains, and either it's a crown canopy, like an actual crown canopy, and so there's like a little piece here, and then the curtains hang up underneath, and then so it's just covered, or there's like swags coming down, all sorts of fanciness. So I'm going to attempt to do a swag. I've never really done this before, so we'll see how it turns out. I think what I'm just gonna do is kind of like accordion fold it, like just like go back and forth and pleat it, tie off the ends, and then hang it. So let me do that real quick. Probably gonna need to fuss with it a bunch and see how that turns out. So let me get on that. All right, so here's my attempt at swagging. I don't think it's bad. Like, I really love the way it looks here in the middle, but I don't like the little tails off to the side. I could possibly just like trim it off there, but I think I'm gonna stop and do some research on like valences and how to like make like an actual swag rather than just like folding it and tying it off. Just gonna put a pin in this and figure out something that I will love, because after all the other work, I want to adore this, not just be like, oh yeah, that's good enough. So I'm gonna think on this and come back to you. All right, so I have spent honestly way too long, researching and debating what I want to do on the top part of that crown canopy. But it kind of worked in my favor because I was kind of hemming and hawing between a couple of options. And during all this, I've also been thrifting for some bedside tables. You'll hear about that when that episode comes out. But while running around doing that, I just kind of stumbled upon a lucky little find. I found this king-size pillowcase, the Sham, and this really cool, it's like a dark gray with this square motif that like matches the shelf part really well. So I really thought I was going to use that black fabric, but we're going to use this to make the valance. And since now, I have a little bit more limited material that I'm working with, that eliminated like doing any sort of like swagging. I think what I'm going to do is a slightly a little gathered at the top, but a scallop trim. That way it's a little bit cleaner. I was actually debating about doing like a box pleat valance, but I saw a lot of pictures of the scallop edge and I really like that. So I'm going to take this apart for parts, and then we're going to make a stencil because I don't want to just cut right into this with curves, since I do want the curves to be, kind of symmetrical. We're going to take some of that like tracing paper. I have like the roll of it, and we're going to make a pattern, and then we'll cut out of this fabric. So I also need to take some measurements and do some mathing to determine how big of scallops I want to do and how many of them I want to do. It's probably going to be 3. 3 is pretty the standard look that I was seeing on a lot of those valances. So that's where we're at, and it's time to finally continue. So like I said, I'm going to take these apart and we will get to that. Okay, so it took a little extra time, and I don't always use a stitch ripper to pick out the seam. Sometimes I go for scissors, but I'm glad I didn't, because as it turns out, this was one big piece all sewn together. So that means I can do something more than just a plain scallop. I'm going to combine the box pleat with the scallop, which means I need to look up some patterning and figure out how I'm going to draft that. I also need to iron out the folds on the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I will come back and show you how I draft the pattern for this. Alright, so I actually found a really great like tutorial, maybe not quite tutorial, but it was a lot of good information about how to do this. And I'm actually going to link it below for anyone who's interested in it. But this is now my miniature drafted pattern. I went ahead and I took measurements of what that top area is. So from like the wraparound of the bar itself, it's about 42.5 inches. The front was 36, which wasn't super relative, but I wanted to make sure that I considered it when I was making, deciding how I was going to do this. So I'm going to do a bigger scallop in the middle and then the smaller ones on either side. So this measures out to 42, I believe I ended up with. Yeah, 42 up here. And then once you add the pleats, which I'm not going to do a big pleat, it's more of a detail than adding fullness or anything. The width will be 58 inches and my fabric is plenty long for this. I also decided how far down I wanted to drape, which isn't too far, it's 8 inches. So we should be able to just fold that panel in half and then get both of our pieces, because I am going to, I think, line it just because it is a thinner fabric, and then we will get a clean edge more easily as well. So now all that's left to do is blow this up into full size. have our pattern. We can cut out the fabric, which is super awful, by the way. Even for just a decorative pillowcase, I can't imagine having this on a pillow. Definitely better for a valance. And the process for doing this was super easy because I did it on graph paper using like the squares to kind of guesstimate the units. I used tracing paper on this board, which is also 1-inch squares on here. And I was just able to count the squares instead of having to grab a ruler and measure it all out. So that was awesome and easy. But yeah, I'm going to get the 2 pieces cut out. Actually, there's a 3rd piece. Because I want it to sit on top of the curtains and kind of be pushed up a little bit, I'm going to kind of make a sleeve that it's going to attach to and stuff it with some like batting or something just to make sure that gap is filled. But anyways, I'm going to start by getting these pieces cut out and sewn together, and then we're going to pleat them. Yay! Alright, so we are getting close to being able to wrap this up now. I went ahead and I just cut out a rectangle to use as like the base that I'm going to put on the top part of the shelf so that it sits, and then I am going to put like a little couple of loops to attach it up there. And then we also have our sewn together and pressed panel, and it is, as you can see, kind of funny shape, and that's because this is where we are going to do our little box pleat bit, which I'm going to do right now. I'm actually pretty happy with how this came out. These curves are not perfect, like this one's just a little wonky in the middle part, but curves are hard and I have not really done them that often, so I'm okay with how they came out. And what I may just eventually do is find some like sort of trim that I can put along the edge to just hide that little bit of funkiness. But for now, this is fine. I'm okay with it. So my iron is heating. Actually, it may be ready to go. So let's go ahead and put some pleats in, and then we can finally finish this project. All right, I brought you in just a little closer so you can see how I'm going to do this. And actually, I can even use, once again, the lines on this mat board to kind of get a nice even pleat. The most important part is just that it's straight along the outer portion of it. And so I know it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 8 wide. The middle part should be 4, 2, I don't remember. So there is, I need to make sure I don't accidentally press where the seam was, because there's kind of a natural pleat point there already. But just make sure that's straight. I'm just gonna fuss with it a little bit. This is probably too far over. But yeah, the most important thing is that this outer point is what's even. All right, that looks pretty good, I think. So let me see if I can carefully move that to my ironing board. I didn't really end up using the grid that much. I could have just probably freehanded it up here. All right. All right, one pleat down. There we are. It is all pleated. Actually get that centered. Pleated and ready to be pinned to this piece. And I had already measured out this piece to the dimensions I had taken of the actual curtain rod itself. So it's actually pretty good lineup. Alright, I'm going to stitch this together. And then I'm going to go ahead and hang it up, and I will see you in the unveiling. Here it is. I'm really proud of how this came out. I learned quite a few new techniques along the way, so that's always worth something regardless of anything else. Yeah, I'm so excited. This is really like setting the stage for everything else I plan on doing in this room. Speaking of which, next video will be some furniture transformation. I am very excited. The pieces that I looked for took a long time to find. You will hear more about it then. But anyways, I hope you liked this video. I hope you maybe learned a few things yourself along the way, and I hope that it helped you to relax in peace. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.